It is time now for us to take a look back at this week's headline-making stories in our Reporters Rewind. Our guests at the round table are Mike Bako. He is an editor with dailynational.com, as well as Serusha Govender, who is a South African freelance journalist living here in the U.S., and Wuyi Jacobs, who is the host and editor of Afrobeats Radio. Hello, all of you.
Hello.
Happy Friday to you.
Friday.
Good to see you. Well, I want to start off talking about Ebola. I think the whole world is talking about it. It is just, it's scary. It's an outrage of what's happening in Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Guinea, and now has spread to Nigeria, where you live. I'm going to come to you in just a second, Wuyi. I want to start with you, Serusha, because you live in South Africa. You're going back in a week. What are the concerns? Are you concerned about its spread beyond the region that it's been in?
I am definitely, and it's something that's come up now. People are like, it's the worst in 4 decades, and it took us by surprise. But I've covered a lot of infectious disease outbreak on the continent. I've covered typhoid, malaria, cholera, malaria so many times in so many different places, and everyone goes, it could have been Ebola this time. We're just so lucky it wasn't. There are just not the borders and the parameters set in place to stop Ebola from outbreaking and spreading, and it was going to come now, or it should have come earlier. And what it just shows is that we're not prepared to contain this disease. We're not prepared to fight it. We're not prepared to keep it from moving, and we're in trouble. It could start spreading much wider than West Africa a lot sooner. I mean, it's already starting to hit the States. We could see a global outbreak if we're not careful. Very
well could be. I think a lot has to do with the medical system in place in that country. The U.S. certainly is more equipped to handle this outbreak than Liberia and the other countries. Let me swing back over here to you, Wuyi. You are Nigerian. You're from Nigeria, and of course, there's been one case, and the man did die. Is Nigeria equipped to handle this? Should it come across the border again?
I think Nigeria may be slightly better equipped than, say, Liberia. But to be honest, all of West Africa needs to pay serious attention to their health infrastructure. That's where the problem is. So when these kinds of things happen, they get out of hand before they're able to contain them. But it's hard to say that Nigeria can't. Nigeria does have more infrastructure than Liberia or Sierra Leone or even Guinea. But, it needs a global attention. It needs everybody to be on board with this.
It does need everybody to be on board with it, and a lot of people are talking about it. Go ahead.
I was going to just jump in and say it's a little bit more than infrastructure, though. It's massive misinformation. It's the community itself that doesn't believe the information they're getting about the spread of Ebola and these infectious diseases. So they travel while they're infected, and that's how it spreads. You can have all the best infrastructure and best doctors in place. If they don't trust the medical professionals there, if they don't trust the information they're getting, if they prefer the council of witch doctors and communal and community knowledge that goes back hundreds of years but is not medically proven, you can't fight it no matter how much infrastructure you throw at it. And that's the problem we're facing continent-wide.
Good point.
And there's a certain disbelief in that I can't get it. You mentioned people traveling with it. You get beginning symptoms, but you're going to travel because it can't possibly happen to me. I come from a developing country. I may have just visited for a day or two. I'm just stopping by, and then that's how the infection spreads. Traveling, now there's a lot of pushback from the Centers of Disease Control in Atlanta, accepting a patient who would be quarantined, but what's the purpose of bringing them here? That's a lot of the backlash, at least from the U.S. perspective.
And speaking of that, Mike, what kind of comments are you hearing? Because, of course, the Ebola has never come to the borders of the United States, and it's going to on purpose.
It's going to on purpose.
On purpose, as they bring this doctor and medical worker into the U.S. to treat them. How are people reacting to that?
I think they're reacting very negatively, but they're also not looking at it from a long-term perspective of the only way to eradicate this, to get to the bottom of it, is by treating people, is by finding out what do they have, what do they have inside of their body. So it's a kind of not wanting it in their own backyard type of system. Everyone cries about an outbreak and about the deaths, but then they don't really want it in their backyard when there could become a possibility for treating it or discovering some sort of treatment.
Yeah, and the reality is there could be some advancements in understanding it and preventing it, if not curing it, which would be a long time away, to have it here under the tightly controlled situation that they're planning on using. I want to change the subject subject. We really just have a minute or so yet to go. But the Africa Summit that we mentioned earlier, we're going to talk about a little bit more in just a second with our Washington Bureau, is coming up. It starts the end of the weekend, Monday, and goes for the next few days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Wuyi, do you have any great expectations of this, or is this for, I don't want to say for show, but...
I don't want to be negative.
But?
So I would say what I'd like to see come out. I'd like to see President Obama engage Africa seriously, very seriously, economically, right? I'd like to see something like most favored trade nation that was given to China, but to the continent as one unit so that the continent can get its own acts together, you know. But as it is, don't expect anything out of it. Big deals for big companies, General Electric, Halliburton, and the rest of them, they're going to come out with some nice deals. But I think it's a bit disappointing that as we're all talking about Ebola, right, about Ebola, the possibility of it coming to the U.S., well, there's something else that is about to land on our shores. We have dictators coming, we have con men coming, we have mass killers, mass murderers that Mr. Obama is importing to the United States. And I think people should be paying attention right now. Paul Kagame is coming. Paul Biya is coming. The guy that couldn't find the girls that were kidnapped in his backyard is coming. So all these guys are coming, and I think that's just as dangerous as Ebola.
It's really too bad that you don't have an opinion on this, Wuyi. Serusha, is there an expectation from your standpoint, even in South Africa?
Right. I'm so circumspect about these expensive talk shops, particularly, as we said, with who's coming over. But I'm intrigued by the way they're holding this conference. It's less formalized. It's more of these little meetings and widespread networking affair than an actual, formalized, meetings with the president one-on-one, which is an interesting take on it. It's more like this one-of-us approach. I'm one of you. I'm interested in the future of the continent, but it's offending African leaders, and it's also excluding civil leaders, community members, people who are actually on the ground fighting a lot of these issues that they disagree with the African leaders about that need to be tackled. These are being ignored completely. So how can we really take this seriously if we're ignoring an entire half of the debate that has really never been addressed properly?
Well, it'll be very interesting. Arise News will be there and will be covering the summit, so we'll have updates as they develop. We'll have to stop right there. Mike Bako, Serusha Govender, Wuyi Jacobs. Thank you to all.
Good to see you again.
Right, see you soon.